Hello, and welcome to Chandler in Focus. I'm Phil Westbrooks, Vice Mayor for the City of Chandler. Thank you for joining us today. We have a wonderful show, very interesting. It's on an organization that has recently moved to Chandler, and it's called the Never Again Foundation. With us here to talk to us about the Never Again Foundation is Keith Perkins, the founder and executive director of the Never Again Foundation. Keith, welcome to the show.
It's good to be here. Thank you for bringing us.
Very glad to have you here. Tell us about the Never Again Foundation. What do you do and what are your goals?
What we do at the foundation is we're a group of lawyers, and we're a nonprofit foundation. We provide free legal representation for women, children, and senior citizens that might have found themselves victims of either physical or sexual abuse. And what we do is we represent them in civil actions directly against their abusers to hold them financially accountable.
Okay. So basically under the umbrella of domestic violence or child abuse, sexual abuse. And
that's exactly the area of law we deal with, yes.
Okay, great. Why is it the civil justice system? Isn't it the criminal justice system where the abusers pay the debt to society?
You know, that's one of my favorite sayings, is that under the criminal justice system, abusers pay their debt to society. That's true. They go to jail and they can pay their debt to society. But the only place that it is made for them to pay their debt to their victims is through the civil justice system. The cost of crime is staggering. It costs billions of dollars annually. There's only 3 people that can pay that cost: the abusers or the criminals who caused the crime, the victims that they do it to, or the rest of us in society. And the only legal system designed to take that staggering cost and put it back upon the people who cause it, back upon the perpetrators, is the civil justice system. That's the only place it can be done. And the criminal system wasn't designed for that. That's why we help the victims to do that.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Very logical, very practical, and I understand that, and I agree with it. And I think we should do more of that, where the abusers, the violators, the people who commit the crimes should be the persons that are responsible to pay for those crimes. Too often, it's either the victim who pays or the taxpayers, us,
That's
the
right.
rest of us.
That's exactly right.
That end up picking up the tab for someone else who committed the crime.
We kind of
just don't understand that.
Well, we got tired of that. And like I said, the only place that it can be done is in the civil system. The criminal justice system is designed to protect society by putting the bad guy, if possible, behind bars. That's what it's about. It's not designed to make the financial accountability stick. And so the rest of it falls through to the victims and to the rest of us. And the only place it can be taken care of is the civil justice system.
Okay, so that's why you focus.
That's why we do what we do.
All right. Explain to us the difference between the civil, the criminal, and the family courts.
You bet. Well, the way we call it, at the Never Again Foundation, we kind of designed a way of teaching people about this area of law, and we call it the 3 doors approach. Door number 1 would be the criminal justice system. Door number 2 is the civil justice system, and door number 3 would be the family court system. The most frustrating thing that could possibly happen to a victim of crime is to be down at the courthouse, sitting in front of a judge. They know that this is a place they're supposed to be protected. Tell the judge their story and have the judge tell them, either there's not much I can do for you, or I can only do this much for you. And have that victim feel like, I know there's something more that's supposed to be happening. Well, the whole reason is each one of those doors can only provide a certain amount of help or legal remedy for them. And they might wind up being in the wrong door. So what we do at the foundation is we're civil litigation attorneys. We're door number 2 attorneys, but we coordinate the power of all 3 of the systems, all 3 doors, to help maximize the benefit that the law is there to afford a victim of crime.
Makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. In a follow-up to that, tell us about the Arizona Crimes Victims' Rights video and what that does as far as awareness and education for the public?
This was a program we were very, very excited to be a part of. We were approached by the Arizona Department of Health Services, who was familiar with this three doors concept that we use at the foundation. And they asked us, they said there isn't a uniform teaching method across the state of Arizona to teach everybody top to bottom about what rights a victim of crime has. So based upon our program of the Three Doors approach, we put together the Arizona Crime Victims' Rights video to help victims of crime know what rights they have under each one of these different doors and how to maximize the legal remedies for their benefit. We were really pleased that some of the who's who people from law throughout the state of Arizona were part of it. We have professors from the Arizona State University, from the governor's office. We have representatives there, prosecutors, safe home representatives, and it was all narrated by Lynn Sue Cooney, who generously donated her time. And so it was a very good product that now is being broadcast throughout all of Arizona. So there's a uniform teaching method to help people understand what their rights are, regardless of whether they're in Phoenix, Arizona and have access to all of the materials, or they happen to be in an outlying rural area with a volunteer in the middle of the night needing to know what their rights are. They have one source that they can get good information from. We're very, very happy to be a part of that program.
Okay. And where can people access this video?
Well, right now it's actually being run on Channel 11 here, not only in Chandler, but throughout Arizona. They can also contact us at the Never Again Foundation. We have a website, neveragainfoundation.org, all one word, and they can actually see it online right there if they have a high-speed internet access.
Right.
Or they can contact us. We'd be happy to provide a copy of the video for them. And many of the organizations now in law enforcement, prosecutors' offices, safe home shelters throughout the state of Arizona now have access to their own copy of the Arizona Crime Victims' Rights video. A lot of different places to be able to get access to that information.
Great. Now, is everyone eligible for assistance? Are they required to qualify for your program? How does it work? If someone needs help and they say, you know, how do I get help? Do I qualify?
One of the most frustrating things about the work that we do is that we're limited by budget to how many people we can serve, and so there's always more people who need access to the legal system than we have the ability to take into the program. Typically what happens is anybody who contacts us at the Never Again Foundation, we will try to have an attorney specifically talk with them on the phone, help them to whatever degree that we feel like we can answer those questions, and if they wind up meeting some qualifications that we do have for the program, for the Never Again Foundation, then we'll invite them to come down to the foundation, meet one-on-one with an interview with the attorney, go through their specific set of circumstances, and then the information that they've given us will be reviewed pursuant to a preset criteria to see if they can qualify for the program. And really, right now, it's primarily based on whether or not we have the availability to take additional cases on. As you can imagine, we have a very, very heavy caseload trying to help people.
Right. Well, domestic violence is very prevalent in our society. Unfortunately, we have to say that it is very prevalent, and there's probably a lot out there that we don't even really deal with. I think we're only at the the base, at the tip of the iceberg in dealing with the entire problem.
I agree with you. In fact, I think that truth be known, when everything is said and done, we're going to find out how that the vast majority of people have somehow been affected by this in their life, either by themselves or by someone that they really love and know that has been affected by crime in this manner, one way or the other.
Yeah, some family or friend or someone like that
that's right.
Been in a domestic violence or sexual assault type of incident.
That's right.
Let's talk about the success of the program, the Never Again Foundation. I'm very familiar with it, but share that with our audience because I think it's so important to know, your success in what you've done in the community?
Well, we have been able to, again, we take civil lawsuits directly against the abusers or criminals to hold them financially accountable. And we now have the top verdicts or judgments in Arizona history now. If you had the top 10 list up, I don't know if we've got all top 10 now, but we've got the vast majority of them. We have held abusers accountable for anywhere between hundreds of thousands of dollars to several millions of dollars. By the time you add up all of the cases, the multiple cases that we've received judgments on behalf of our clients for against their perpetrators, it now totals approximately $50 million.
Wow. Now, what does that do? Because do you actually collect that, or that offsets the cost of what it would be for on the criminal side? How does that actually work when you go for those types of settlements, or those types of judgments, I should say?
You bet. When we're able to get verdicts of that nature, naturally a lot of these people don't have that kind of money to pay up. If you look at it from a financial collectability standpoint only, a lot of people would wonder, why do you do this? Why is that necessary? However, it's a lot more than that when you're talking about the victim of crime that we represent. Right. And just from a collectability standpoint, however, we have been able to collect several hundreds of thousands of dollars from these judgments and give it, and 100% of everything that we collect, all of it, goes to the victims that we represent. We don't have the standard law office contingency fee arrangement at all. Whatever we do, we turn it over to the victims. I will happily say that many of those victims that we have represented have voluntarily donated part of the funds back to the foundation so we can help the next person. Right. And so there has been a very real financial benefit for many of the victims that we have represented.
Okay. For some, that would beg the question of going through a traumatic experience, if there's an actual likelihood of collecting, and I kind of answered that, or asked you that question. Is there anything you wanted to add to
Absolutely, absolutely. If it was just about financial collectability, it can make some significant difference for the victims. We can't get it all, but we can get some. But that's not the real reason the victims do it. They do it for a sense of justice. They want to have their ability to tell their story on who this person is. Secrecy is the lifeblood of abuse, and as long as that person is not known about what they're doing, they continue to do it to the next person. The vast majority of cases that we have, when we have successfully held somebody accountable, has done this 2 or 3 times over, that we find out in the past to other victims. So we're finally shining a spotlight on who this person is, and that can be very healing for the victims and a great preventative measure for others. But there's some other power that comes with this as well, not only from the healing for the victims, but you need to understand that our judgments are non-dischargeable in bankruptcy. It will follow the perpetrator to their grave. It winds up becoming a financial life sentence for them. Other things that can happen is that if they're in a divorce situation and a domestic violence, and now they're in a divorce, the perpetrator can absolutely walk away with nothing from their divorce. They lose it all because of the work that we do. It can impact child custody. It can impact termination of parental rights. It can impact a wage claim or a garnishment of their wages for the rest of their life. It can impact distribution of heirs if they become of an inheritance someday, if they ever hit the lottery. It follows them for life. It can impact a lot of different things. But the bottom line is it's about justice for the victims. And that's the biggest thing that we get to give back to them.
Very important. Very important. And I know we'll get into a little more detail as we get to the second half of the show. And I want to remind the audience that you are watching Chandler in Focus. I'm Phil Westbrooks, the Vice Mayor for the City of Chandler. I'm meeting with Keith Perkins, who is the founder and executive director for the Never Again Foundation. And the focus is to work on domestic violence cases, child abuse, and for seniors, for people who cannot afford legal support, I guess I'll say. But let's talk about your your work in the legislature, because you've made some major milestones there as well. And I must say, you and the rest of the attorneys in your office, your board, your support staff have done an outstanding job, and we're so excited that you're here in Chandler.
Thank you.
Tell us about the work you've done at the legislature.
Well, because the work that we do is so unique, we're able to take real-life examples of when the legal system works, and then we're also able to expose some of the loopholes that the bad guys, that the criminals are using to get out of financial accountability. When we are able to take a real-life example of how they've been able to avoid accountability, we can take that example over to the legislature and say, here's the problem. This is where they're getting away with it. This is a loophole, and we have an idea for you on how to fix it, and this is what we would suggest. We now have had, each one of the last 2 years, we have had one of those types of issues go to the legislature. We have presented a solution for the problem, and they have enacted the laws that we have suggested in order to close those loopholes. One of them we're very excited, well, both of them we're very excited about. The first one was called Jerry's Law, and that was a case where the criminal statute of limitations, how long you have to go after a guy or somebody, a criminal, to hold them criminally accountable, can be 7 years or indefinite, however long it takes. We feel so strongly about holding them accountable, we'll go after them forever. But for the exact same act, for the victim of that crime under the civil system, they only had 2 years. So you could, if the criminal process took longer than 2 years to hold somebody accountable for that, even if they got them criminally convicted, even if they were behind bars for murder, if it took longer than 2 years, the victim would lose all of their rights. That didn't feel right. So we showed that through a case that we took all the way to the Court of Appeals. We went down to the legislature, and within 6 weeks after us presenting that idea, it was unanimously approved. And Arizona became one of the first states in the nation to have a law such as that to protect victims' rights. We were very, very proud to be a part of that.
What's the other example that you...
The other example was one that we did this year, and believe it or not, it was a loophole for domestic violence to hold a person who had been convicted of domestic violence in their divorce could use the fact that they were married as a defense to not having to pay their victim if they were married to him because of what was called marital misconduct. They could say the fact, under Arizona law, you can't consider marital misconduct when you're dividing up the property in a divorce. So they were saying that my criminal act of domestic violence against you was marital misconduct, therefore you can't consider that, therefore you have to pay for it yourself. And that was the way some of the rulings were coming out. Well, this year we were able to get the legislature to specifically exclude crimes from that marital misconduct. So if it's in a marital situation anymore, bad guys can't use that as an excuse. They are now held completely accountable for it.
Great. Great work in the legislature, and I know you've been down there quite a bit, and it's working. They're listening and they're making changes, and they deserve a lot of credit as well, our legislature, for listening, understanding it, and making the changes necessary.
Well, what we're trying to do is really help the victims themselves. And because we're in the trenches with real-life experiences and real cases that are going through the criminal system, all we're doing is showing the legislature, here's where it's working and here's where it's broken. This is what we would do to fix it, and we leave it up to them. So we're not really down there necessarily lobbying the legislature at all, but we're providing the real-life examples so they can have the information to make the good decisions to fix the system.
Good. Makes sense. Let's talk about the alarming statistics. We've talked a little bit about that. There's probably someone watching the show who's either gone through a domestic violence situation or abusive situation, or is currently going through one, or they may know someone who's going through one. Who would they turn to? What kind of assistance? Where do they go for help?
Well, my first response to that would be it depends upon where in the abuse process they are. If they're in a crisis situation, we're not necessarily who they call. They can, and we'll refer them out, but they need to get safe. The very first thing is to get safe. Whether they call the police, whether they call a family advocacy center, the Arizona Coalition Against Domestic Violence, or a good place, a safe shelter, to get themselves safe. Mm-hmm. Once they have gotten safe or out of the immediate harmful situation, then we are a very good call to make, because we come in after things have settled down just a little bit, and help make the abuser financially accountable.
Okay. Now, I understand you both have volunteers and internships opportunities available. Share with our viewers the type of assistance you need, because you are a nonprofit organization.
That's correct.
You depend on support.
That's right.
From the community, from the federal government, I believe, and I think you also go after state funding as well, probably any type of funding you can get.
That's right.
To keep the doors open, and I understand that. So how can the community help?
Well, we do have internships available. Most of the internships, however, that we have coming in are primarily for legal background, whether they're an attorney, a law student, or a paralegal, or such as that. We've had them from all over the nation intern with us because we're very unique. But you're absolutely right. We're only available or only able to provide the services that we have because of the funding that the community or that good organizations allow us to be able to provide these services for people. And our ability to provide the services are directly related and correlated to our financial ability to provide those services for people. So any opportunities for donations, one easy way to do that, if for those that are so inclined, right on our website again, www.neveragainfoundation.org, there's a little place on the bottom where somebody can easily, painlessly take 5 minutes and make an online donation, and they get a tax-deductible receipt right there. That's an easy way to do it. They can certainly contact us, and we have some very good ideas on business partnerships, corporation donations, as well as some charitable estate planning work. And that's where there can be some amazing help for the families, where they can increase their inheritance to their heirs, increase the amount of money that they can have for lifetime expenditures, and do something good for the community all at the same time to help the work such as us at the foundation work forward. And so those are different ways that the community can help our work continue for the victims that we serve.
Good, good. And I hope people do get involved and try to help out as much as possible, because you're doing some outstanding work. And all it takes is a few minutes of research and going down and visiting the Never Again Foundation, and people will quickly realize how much you're doing for the community. Now, let's talk about the unique work, again, of the Never Again Foundation. You focus on the civil justice system. Are there similar organizations in the country that are doing the work you're doing right here in Chandler, Arizona? And well, I know you service the entire state.
That's
but
right.
You're actually, your office, you're located right here in Chandler, Arizona, which I'm very excited to say. Is anybody else doing what you're doing?
There isn't anybody, not only in the state of Arizona, that does what we do. There isn't anybody nationwide that we've been able to find that does anything close to the long-term, sophisticated civil representation for abuse victims. Nobody's doing that. There's some that, and they're great organizations that do other kinds of legal assistance, but nothing that comes about from what we do. No one.
Okay. Now, you had a visitor last Friday. You invited me over to your office. I met with her, and she's very interested in your organization, and she's very supportive of your organization. And that is Denise Brown, the sister of Nicole Brown Simpson, who we all know that case, all too familiar with that case. What was it, 10, 12 years ago?
10 years ago now.
Yeah. So she actually came to your office to see the work that you're doing, and basically to compliment you on the work that you're doing. Tell us about that.
We were very honored. We knew she was in town, and we were very honored to have received the call that she wanted to come by and learn a little bit more about the work that we're doing. And maybe that's another way of explaining what we do. And in comparing it to that case, there was the criminal system, and we all know the outcome of that. And then there was the follow-up civil case that Denise's family did with the Goldmans. Well, that's what we do at the Never Again Foundation. We do those cases, the second trials, for free. And that's how come I think she was so excited about the work that we were doing. She instantly understood from a victim's perspective the need for that kind of justice, for that kind of accountability. And we always thought that if there was ever anybody that would understand intuitively the power of the work that we do at the Never Again Foundation, it would be Denise. And it was very it was very rewarding to get to hear from her mouth and lips and her enthusiasm for the work that we're doing. One of her first questions was, when you're coming out to California, we need you there too. So we do, which we do intend to expand nationwide and have branches of the foundation everywhere, because this kind of help needs to be offered to victims of crime everywhere.
Right. And she did say that. I was there when she said, you know, I've been working on this for the last 10 years. She said, I don't know of any organization throughout the country that's doing the work that the Never Again Foundation is doing in the state of Arizona and right here in the city of Chandler, Arizona. So that was pretty impressive, very, very compelling.
We're very glad to have the opportunity to do the work that we get to do.
We're down to the last few minutes, and I still have a couple questions left. We've talked about this a little bit. You do your work at no charge.
That's correct.
You know, how do you sustain yourself? Do you work with like a board that seeks donations and that types of funding? Is there anything else you want to add to that? We talked a little bit about that.
We do have a board of directors. They work very hard at helping us have the funding that we need. We do qualify for some federal and government grants as well. We really do depend upon the community and the good people that are familiar or get to hear about the work that we're doing and want to step forward and do whatever they feel like they can to help. That's a tremendous help as well.
Okay. Have I forgotten anything? Let's talk about your staff, the people that you work with that do all this work. Let's give them some credit. Who do you work with?
Well, one of the people that I work with is another attorney named Kent Phelps. Kent heard about the work that I was doing and starting up this idea and this foundation, and he came to me a couple of years ago and he said, this is my dream job. And he actually took a half-cut pay and salary to leave a law firm to come do this work because it was where his heart always dreamed of being. We really do get to, I feel like every day that I go to work, we have the opportunity to wield the sword of justice in defense of truth and virtue every day. From an idealistic person like myself and for Kent, that is a dream job. We truly get to help the people who need it the most and have the law impact their lives. Melanie at the office is one of the most generous, kindest-hearted women that you could ever hope to meet. And she, as the face of the foundation to most of the people that work with us, provides that element of generosity and warmth that we want to make sure is there for the victims. I will say the one other thing that I do want to make sure is mentioned. We could not be more happy being here in Chandler. And the reason we are here in Chandler is in large part due to the work that you did in hearing about us, located in another place, another facility, and bringing us and making it a reality to where our national headquarters could be right here in Chandler, Arizona. So I definitely wanted to tell you thank you for bringing us to Chandler.
Thank you.
We love being here.
Thank you. It was the least I could do. I met you. I heard your message. It was clear. I knew you needed some support. And we just worked together to find you a place here in Chandler, and you're doing some wonderful, wonderful things. We have about 30 seconds left on the show. Anything you'd like to add?
First of all, I guess I would like to say that if there's anybody that needs help, feel free to give us a call. We will do our best to answer any of the legal questions that you have, especially pertaining to this field of law. If we can't answer the question, we'll try to get you to the right people who can, or to the right resources that can. And if there are, for those businesses, corporations, or individuals out there that would like to help, we can always use help at the foundation. Please feel free to give us a call.
Great. Been meeting with Keith Perkins, the founder and executive director of the Never Again Foundation. You're at www.neveragainfoundation.org.
We're actually at .org.com, either one. But yes, you can find us right there.
Okay. Thank you, Keith. Appreciate it. And
Thank
thank you for joining Chandler in Focus. And remember, in Chandler, values make the difference.